Hello and welcome to episode 30 of Intruder Theatre in the Making podcast. I'm your host Remi Rachuba and thank you so much for tuning in. Tuning in after such a long time. I needed to look it up. The last episode I recorded was on the 14th of June. Today is the 7th of October, so it's been quite some time. Seems to me like it's been ages since I recorded episode 29. Actually, last week seems like a couple of years ago, to be quite honest. So much is going on. But even yesterday I recorded one episode. It was too long. I only realized after 45 minutes that I only said half of the things I wanted to say. So then I recorded another episode, completely messed up the dates. I kept talking about 2020. So today, Friday, 7th of October, I thought, wow, why don't we do it again? Let's see how it goes. Hopefully I can squeeze it all in and say what I wanted to say in maybe 30 minutes. Let's see how it goes. Because so much has happened, it's very, very difficult for me to just cram it all in, as I said in one episode. So today I'm going to maybe focus on June and July 2022, the preparation for rehearsals and what was going on. In the next episode, I will focus on the rehearsals and the creative process. In the following episode, then it'll be about the Fringe, tips, advice, insight into the Fringe, and then hopefully 4 episodes from now on, I will be still talking about what's been happening, and in particular some drama, because there was some drama unveiling at the moment. I can't talk much about it, but hopefully when I record that episode, I will be able to shed some more light on what's happening now. So looking forward to that. It's not really exciting stuff, but it's part of the journey of the play, so it also needs to be talked about, but I have no idea when it's going to be. So let's come back to June and to what was happening with Intruder. I actually needed to listen to episode 29 to refresh my memory and think, what was I talking about then? Because, as I said, it seems like it was ages ago, many years ago. And it's very interesting to know what I was talking about in June, looking forward to the rehearsals and then to the Fringe, and now reflecting on the Fringe and listening to what my worries, anxieties, or kind of what I was thinking about. So let's delve into it and let's shed some more light on what was happening back in June and then prior to our rehearsals. So the last thing I said was that we were about to go into Zoom production meeting. Now, a little bit of a reminder for some of you, even some of you who listen to the podcast for the first time. Our creative team is a very small one. It's just me, the director Marcus, Basia, set costume designer, and Mark, a sound designer, and Ed, my co-producing partner. Now, back in 2020, when we rehearsed the piece in London, Polish Eagle Club, there was 4 of us in the rehearsal room. Ed is Bristol-based, so he wasn't present in rehearsals then, and also he wasn't part of the rehearsal process and also preparation before we did rehearsals this year in July 2020. So when we were thinking of meeting, it would be only on Zoom. Why? Because Marcus moved out of London, Basia moved out of London, Mark moved out of London. So, well, how do we do that? Well, via Zoom. Marcus lives outside, I think, an hour from London now. Basia is in Poland. Mark lives in Devon, as far as I know. At Bristol. So we were trying to get the whole team together. The first time round, when we scheduled a Zoom meeting, when I scheduled the Zoom meeting, there was some conflicting times, so we needed to reschedule, and then four of us joined. It was by Zoom, and we were aware of the fact that, we would be rehearsing with certain members via Zoom, especially with Basha, but then it wasn't such an important bit of rehearsals, meaning that we didn't have a big set or not a lot of costumes. It was quite easy to do a couple of Zooms here and there, but for that first Zoom production meeting, it was important to have everyone there just to talk about logistics and what was going to happen. So that took place in the second half of June. Also in June, I was still preparing everything for the Fringe, for rehearsals. I was still working as an interpreter. I was doing some medical role plays, so it was life as normal. And in the evenings, whenever I had some free time, I spend on preparing the Fringe and looking into certain bits and bobs of before we go into rehearsals. I was in charge of all of that. I did inform Ed what I was doing so that he was aware of certain things, but I took the lead on most of the things. I was also taking part in Zooms by Summer Hall. Their team was incredibly supportive. They were doing a Zoom with all the creatives that were going to Summer Hall, and then they were also doing like a Zoom one-on-one where we talked about Intruder, Intruz, and how we're going to promote it, and just trying to understand the marketing behind the production. They were very, very supportive throughout the whole process. Now looking back at it, and during the Fringe, incredible team. I'm very, very grateful to them for their help. Back in June, we were looking at how we can spread the word, and looking at Polish audiences and what we could do. So yes, great effort by the team. Also, a little bit of a reminder of what we were going to do at the Fringe. So the idea was that we were only going to be there for 14 performances, so we were only going to do Intruder for the first half of the Fringe, not the full Fringe, not 3 weeks, but only a week and a half. And out of these performances, I was going to do 3 performances in Polish, because Intruder is a bilingual piece. The original version is in English with Polish elements, but I really wanted to have 3 Polish performances because there are so many Polish people living in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and I always thought, why not? Why wouldn't I want to do it in Polish as well, especially knowing that my family, my friends are coming from Poland, so yes. And also because Arts Council England gave us funding, and that would include doing a tour of England to Polish communities. So it will be a great opportunity to do the Polish version there as well, and just to do it, to perform it. Why not? And Summer Hall was also very supportive and helpful in encouraging me to maybe in our promo materials, apart from English, put some Polish bits, and we also had some info in the Fringe, the Bible, in the program, which I found very, very useful. So that was great. Now, apart from English and Polish performances, I also wanted to do a signed performance with a BSL interpreter. Now, how did that work? So, I always support the idea of, inclusion, access. So I thought the idea of having a BSL interpreter during one of my performances would be amazing. I didn't know anything about it, so I really needed to, do more research. As far as I know, we went for some BSL interpreting funding. We never got it, so that meant that I then needed to look into my own budget and decide whether I would be even able to afford a BSL interpreter, because I had no idea how much it cost or how it works. So then I contacted, I think, a Fringe office or summer hall, I don't remember now, and they sent me a list of BSL interpreters, and then I contacted them, and then some of them didn't respond to my emails, some of them responded with their rates, some of them said they were not available, and they referred their friend or colleague who was a BSL interpreter. All in all, I think after 2 months, because it took some time, I got hold of a BSL interpreter that had Polish parents. The person, they speak Polish, they understand Polish, but I think they also speak German because they were brought up in Germany and now they live in Skye. Was great. I loved it because I thought, wow, it's amazing. Maybe it would be very, very useful to have them because they do know Polish, and also especially, as Intruder has this stream of consciousness, this thinking process, which is mostly in Polish, it will be great to have them. So then we had a conversation, and then we started talking about it. It was great, but then we talked about the budget and the cost. So then we explored that area, but then it turns out that, well, in order for me to even afford them, I would need to cover the travel costs and then their performance, but also them staying in Edinburgh to some extent, but then potentially them coming to another performance, just seeing what it's all about. So paying for the time, which is important, and then it turned out that it would be about £1,000 to cover all of it. I couldn't really afford it. They said that they could do for whatever I had like money for, but then I felt really uncomfortable underpaying them because I didn't really want to go into the conversation saying that I can only afford £300, but they are still devoting the time, it's their work, so it's really not fair for me to underpay them. So in the end, I said, sorry, I can't really afford them, and in the end we didn't do a BSL performance, but we explored that option, and we also thought that by providing a Polish language version, that's already access and inclusion, so that what it was. I needed to email Summerhall and tell them that, whatever was advertised, that performance, we would need to cancel that because we wouldn't be able to do that. So that was in a nutshell what was going to happen at Summer Hall. 14 performances and 3 performances in Polish. Now the rehearsal process and that period, what we were planning. So jumping back in time, a little bit of, reflecting. Back in 2020, in March, we were planning a 3-week rehearsal process. We only did a week because then the pandemic hit. So we kind of had only 2 weeks left from our budget. Now, this time round, in July, when I was thinking of rehearsals, I was thinking, well, it's going to be 3 weeks again because 2 weeks is not enough. And then I had the money from the crowdfunder and I could use the money to pay the director, and then we still had 2 weeks from our Arts Council England budget to pay everyone, the director and myself. Now, this time round, July 2022, I decided that we would go 3 weeks, but the first week we're going only to do half days, so Maybe in the mornings we're going to work, and then the rest of the day I'm going to be working on my own, looking at the script and memorizing my lines. And then the remaining 2 weeks is going to be full-day rehearsals, just going back and, rehearsing the whole play. We also need to bear in mind that I would be working and rehearsing 2 language versions, English version and Polish version, and also going through it as well. So it was important for me as a performer to actually go and have this comfort of making sure that, I am well rehearsed, and I'm not rushing or doing anything that I don't feel very comfortable with. This is why we had 3 weeks of rehearsals, and then after the 3 weeks of rehearsals we would be going to the Fringe. Also, prior to our rehearsals in July, I had booked a week off for myself, just to kind of go through certain bits and bobs, but also I wanted to go and memorize the play a little bit earlier on, for my own safety. And safety meaning that I know, okay, I have enough time to memorize the text and I don't feel rushed and, kind of worried that I'm not going to remember the text, because actually it's 2 plays, it's English and Polish. Having said that, again, jumping back in time, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a jumping back in time, comparing what it was in 2020 and what it was now in 2022. In 2020, some of you may remember I did a crowdfunder for my play before rehearsals, and I did it for 3 weeks, the crowdfunder, which was like a 24-hour job, and I raised more than £8,000. Incredible. I also recorded 2 podcast episodes on that, so if you're interested how crowdfunding works, you can listen to these episodes. And then after the crowdfunder, I went straight into rehearsals. It was then when I started remembering and memorizing my lines. With time, I realized that it was really last minute back in 2020, and I didn't have time to memorize my lines earlier because of the crowdfunder. So I was memorizing my lines during rehearsals. In 2022, now this July, I knew now that can't happen, because then 2 years ago I felt if it hadn't been for the pandemic, I am not really sure whether I would have been able to memorize 2 plays in 3 weeks, especially as, the rehearsals, it's a completely different story. So this year, I had a feeling that I need to look at these 2 texts a little bit earlier. Interestingly enough, I was very, very excited about going into rehearsals, and I was speaking to quite a lot of people about it, and friends were like, wow, it's amazing, it's great, but wow, you are going to memorize 2 plays. That's actually quite a lot. So I was excited, and I'm not really sure whether the excitement was pure excitement, whether my excitement wasn't fueled by that anxiety or worry as well, partially, that am I actually going to memorize the 2 plays? I hope to do that. So bearing that in mind, at the end of June, I thought, okay, why don't I go and memorize the play a little bit earlier? So one Sunday I went to Hyde Park, which was my rehearsal space, and I took out my script only to see that I brought the Polish version of the script with me. I wasn't really happy about that, because I wanted to start with the English version, but then I thought, screw that. I will have to memorize the Polish version anyway. So why don't we start with the Polish version? And the way it worked was I had my AirPods on, so I was kind of going through the text, pretending that I'm actually speaking to someone, but I was just going through my text. I spent maybe 3 or 4 hours on memorizing my lines. I thought it was quite a lot. I had a little bit of a break. I normally memorized 3 or 4 pages of the script. I wasn't rehearsing every day. As I said, it was the end of June, so I had Sunday off. I went over there, memorized the text, and then I think I went on Monday interpreting. Tuesday I had the morning off, so I went to Hyde Park, went through what I memorized on Sunday again, and then tried to repeat it, and then went with the new section, and then let's say on Thursday I was doing it again. What I also noticed was that I had this feeling of, how is my English version doing? Because I would have been rehearsing and memorizing the Polish version, but then also I was thinking, I don't know, should I maybe be rehearsing my English version? Because is it still there? So I think on day number 4, after rehearsing the Polish version, I went with the English version, just all of a sudden. To my surprise, I remembered all of it. And with time, I realized, I don't know how it works, how my brain works, that I discovered that whenever I was rehearsing the Polish version, I was also rehearsing the English version at the same time. Back in 2020, I was only rehearsing the English version, so maybe that was still somewhere in my brain, and it was just a matter of opening that shelf and taking that version, and here we go. With the Polish version, I had never memorized it, so I felt that, well, it was like starting from scratch. But for some reason, I felt that whenever I was memorizing the Polish version, I was at the same time rehearsing the English version. I don't know, it's very hard for me to explain, but that's how it seemed, and that's what worked. And I was even sharing it later on in rehearsals, whether it's to do with my interpreting, that I do English-Polish. But because I noticed that it worked, I kept doing it. So although I was initially angry that I brought that Polish version, after a couple of days I thought, no, that works, so I'm going to continue with the Polish version, and maybe after a couple of days I'm going to look into the English version and just brush it up. So that's how it worked. Now, some of you, or few of you may think, oh, it's just a Polish version, you probably just go and you just do it. No, these are 2 completely different versions, and I needed to memorize them. And I'm glad that I did, because Intruder, Intruz is a very dynamic and quick. So much is going on that you don't have time. I don't have time to think of my lines. It's just there, you do it. It's very physical, so the lines need to flow. I don't have time to be thinking about, oh, what's my next line? I don't think it should be like that. This is why I really need to have the text nailed before I was going into rehearsals, because I remember from 2020 that it's going to be quite demanding, physically demanding, the rehearsals, so I need to be spot on with my lines. Yes, there would be a moment where I wouldn't remember something, but the lines needed to be there. This is why it was important for me to have my lines nailed. And, well, the thing is that, yes, I translated the play into Polish. Some of the things worked, some of the things didn't work. When I was doing through the Polish version, there was a moment where immediately my brain interpreted the English version into the Polish version, and then I needed to go at the Polish, I needed to look at the Polish text and think, no, I'm not saying it like that. This is not the Polish structure of the sentence, so we need to go to what is written rather than what the brain wants to interpret. It's a very, this whole aspect of learning the lines in Polish and in English, very interesting. I've never experienced anything like that. But yeah, it's an observation. So so memorizing Polish text, English text, Hyde Park was my rehearsal space. It's interesting because I was doing it also, rehearsing at the beginning of July, completely oblivious to what was going on outside in Hyde Park. I could sometimes hear music. I could, I knew there were some concerts going on. I could see people. I remember one day, I think it was Saturday, there were so many people, and I was thinking, where are these people going? I can hear some music. I knew there was concerts going on, but I knew, okay, I need to go through my lines, and, because I'm rehearsing, and then I came back home only to find out that it was Adele performing in Hyde Park. Well, by the time I left, she then went on stage, so I could never tell it was her because she wasn't performing at that time, but I wasn't even aware of the fact that Adele was performing at the in Hyde Park. And then the other thing was, speaking of rehearsal spaces, you might remember in 2020, we were rehearsing at the Polish Eagle Club. Now, this time round in July 2022, I was exploring that option. However, I felt that in 2020, when we were rehearsing, it became quite unpredictable rehearsing at the Polish Eagle Club. They gave us in-kind support, free space, which was amazing. But what happened was, for example, on Monday we were to start rehearsals, and then on Friday, literally when I was finishing my crowdfunder, I would get an email which said, I'm not really sure whether you know, but on Mondays we are shut. So let's start our rehearsals from Tuesday. So here we go. One day we don't have an extra day to rehearse it. Then on Thursday we found out that, well, on Thursday afternoon we have a person that comes to the room and does massages. So this room is not available. So then, and we found out about it on Thursday morning. So then, okay, here we go. So that was something that I wasn't prepared for, and it was great to be using the space. But then on the other hand, we were thinking, well, we still need to work on the production because, well, I need to perform. So I really wanted to avoid it this year. So we sent them an email saying thank you so very, very much, but for this year, July 2020, we wanted to go somewhere else, and we went to Theatre Delhi, which is not a theatre, although theatre is in the title, in the name, but it's like a big room, big building, with a lot of rehearsal spaces, small and big, and I just really wanted to make sure that I feel safe and comfortable going over there, and that when I go over there for 10 o'clock in the morning, nobody's going to tell me in 10 minutes that, sorry, we have someone else coming and using the space. I'd rather, pay money for the space and be comfortable and quite assured that yes, I've got the space for 8 hours and nobody's going to tell me that I can or can't rehearse it. So we were ready to go and rehearse with Marcus on the 11th of July. and I will talk about it in the next episode, sharing info and some insight into our rehearsal process, my creative process, and how it all went and what we decided. Now, for some of you, some info on where we're going to where we're going to present Intruder in November. On the 6th of November, I'm going to present the Polish version of Intruder here in London at POSC. That's Sunday at 5 p.m. And then 2 weeks later, on the 19th and 20th of November, I'm flying to Poland, where I'm going to present it at Teatr Druga Strefa on Saturday and Sunday. Also Polish language version. I'm very, very excited about that. The artistic director of Teatr Druga Strefa flew from Warsaw to see the play in Edinburgh. He saw my poster on Facebook, then we had a chat, and then he invited me, so that's wonderful. So definitely November is going to be quite busy here in London, and then flying to Warsaw. As far as I know, on Saturday the 19th it's sold out. I think there was some tickets left for Sunday's performance in Warsaw. So this is what you can expect initially. Definitely I'm going to present Intruder at the end of January somewhere. I can't disclose it now because I've been told not to, and literally today I'm having another meeting at 2 o'clock at a venue at the theatre in London to discuss putting it on in December here. So let's see what happens, and I'll be able to share with you hopefully in the next episode where we're going to be. Also on social media, if you don't want to wait, I may share more info where it's going to be on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Intruder Play, so you can check it out before waiting for the next podcast episode. Whenever it's going to be, I'm not really sure. Maybe sooner or later. I don't think you're going to wait for another 3 months, but I have no idea when it's going to be. Hopefully in October. So until then, stay well, stay safe, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye for now.